Let's be honest, ironing is exhausting. It takes forever to force your clothes to look crisp, and most of us would rather throw everything in the wash and be done with it. You might assume the secret to a neat wardrobe starts right when you load the drum. It seems logical that the liquids we pour in, like detergent or fabric softener, would help smooth out the fabric. But researchers actually tested this. A 2003 study measured how wrinkled different fabrics were when they came out of the wash. This simple chart compares those wrinkle scores, and it shows that adding detergent actually resulted in slightly more wrinkly clothes. Fabric softener doesn't solve the problem either. Because it enters the drum during the final rinse cycle, it coats fibers that are already bunched together. If you take those clothes out and hang them up to dry, the softener can actually lock those fibers into a rigid, rumpled shape. Since adding chemicals to the water doesn't solve the problem, we have to look closer at what is actually happening to the fabric as it gets wet. To see why your clothes end up a crumpled mess, we need to zoom all the way down to the microscopic architecture of the fibers. Take a typical cotton shirt. Cotton fibers are hydrophilic, meaning they naturally attract water. At the atomic level, each fiber is studded with hydroxyl groups, chemical branches made of one oxygen and one hydrogen atom. Because water molecules have a very similar makeup, they easily mix with these groups. When the wash cycle starts, rushing water breaks the existing hydrogen bonds holding the dry cotton together, soaking into the fibers and causing them to physically swell. Once the wash is over and the fabric begins to dry, that water evaporates. The swollen fibers collapse, and those hydroxyl groups are forced to link up with each other again. If the shirt is bunched up at the bottom of the drum, these new hydrogen bonds form in that exact crumpled shape. Synthetic fabrics like polyester skip most of this process because they are hydrophobic. They repel water. Instead of swelling in the wash, their molecular chains only start to shift and bend when they are heated to between 67 and 81 degrees Celsius. What we see as a permanent crease is really just a temporary state. A wrinkle is simply a microscopic network of newly locked chemical bonds. But the atoms are only part of the equation. A 2020 study demonstrated that the way those fibers are constructed into threads matters just as much. Knitted fabrics consistently come out of the wash smoother than tightly woven fabrics. It all comes down to wiggle room. The looping structure of a knit gives the yarn physical space to shift around. When the material is squished and bumped, those threads have enough freedom to bounce back into their original smooth layout. A tight, woven grid simply gets stuck. A garment's ability to resist wrinkles is engineered right into its geometric architecture, long before it ever touches a drop of water. Zooming out from the threads, we can see how this internal architecture reacts to its surroundings, the high-speed environment of the washing machine drum. It is a physically aggressive space. Fast spin cycles apply intense rotational force, whipping the fabrics around and bending them into completely unnatural shapes. When we cram an entire week's worth of laundry into a single load, we severely restrict how much the clothes can move. Instead of gliding past one another, they repeatedly crash together under that force. In fact, a 2017 study found that filling the drum even halfway subjects cotton to enough physical stress to ensure it comes out heavily crumpled. The exact volume of water plays a surprisingly large role here, too. Researchers found that using 16 liters of water rather than 12 provides a crucial liquid buffer that protects the fabric from bending under all that stress. The wash cycle acts as a physical forge. It forcefully mashes the fibers into chaotic shapes, priming them for the drying process to lock those new bonds into place. You can buy clothes pre-treated with special resins and softeners designed to stop those bonds from forming in the first place. But these chemical barriers break down quickly. After just 4 trips through the wash, the treatment degrades, leaving the fabric stiff. This is why the tumble dryer is so effective. By introducing heat and steam, you are providing the energy required to break those stubborn hydrogen bonds, while the mechanical tumbling allows the fibers to settle back into a naturally smooth surface. We have the data to prove how effective this is. This timeline chart compares clothes that were tumble-dried for 30 minutes versus 45 minutes. As you can see, extending the heat and tumbling time consistently pushes the smoothness rating higher. The science gives us a clear strategy for laundry day. Increase the water volume to protect the fabric, Keep the load small enough to give the threads wiggle room, and rely on the heat of the tumble dryer to loosen those microscopic connections. Wrinkles are just a matter of atomic chemistry. Once you know how the bonds form, you can outsmart them. And if your clothes still come out looking like a crumpled mess, you can always just resort to using brute force.